What's up, YouTubers? Today we're going to talk a little bit and do a brief comparison of the CRKT Matthew Lurch designed LCK Plus. That's the new one here on the top. And for reference, we're going to actually do some comparisons of the old here. But first, let's just talk a little bit about the LCK Plus. This is the new edition models, which are spring assisted on deployment from CRKT. And they also have, I think it's what it was called, was favorable return. So whereas with most assisted knives, you have a tough time and you have to fight the spring all the way back, this one actually gives you a couple little, I call them clicks, or almost like, think of it like, half stops, but in this case it's like a 40% stop that you get on a slip joint. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a sec. In terms of comparable knives, this is definitely in that size range and also in the cost range of the Ontario Rat 2. So that would be in there. And then in terms of other assisted knives, the Kershaw Leak I think would be in there. This particular one happens to be much more pricey. This has the CPM 154 steel as well as the glow-in-the-dark carbon fiber scales. But those would definitely be kind of comparison knives that, if you're looking at the lower end model specifically of that the Kershaw Leak. So in terms of the specs of this thing, it's a 3.3 inch blade. I weighed it in at 2.6 ounces. They actually have it documented as 2.8 on the website, at least on Blade HQ, but it is actually a little bit lighter. In fact, I had it as 0.1 ounce lighter than the regular model. This is 8CR13 MOV steel, costs $33. So, nothing to write home about, but of course, this is in that very low budget range. So, in terms of the goods about this one, I'm not going to go into a full review. I actually want to just, at this point in time, I wanted to get some specs and really talk about if you, just the pros and cons really of that, the new mechanism there, the assisted. Can't even think of it, blah, blah, blah. In any case, I really wanted to find out for myself, and I had already given away the reverse Tanto version of this, so all I have left in my collection is actually the satin bladed one. So in terms of the actual deployment speed, this one you can't really tell entirely. They're just about the exact same, so it's not like it's so much faster or powerful otherwise. So you can tune the old one to have that. The first comparison that I really, difference that I noticed was they used a different pattern on this, whereas the old one has, these kind of bumped up FRN scales on here. The new one has actually kind of just a little bit more grippy in terms of textured feel there throughout, and then it has kind of a neater little bit design there. So I kind of like that design up there. I will say it overall feels better in the hand than the old one. Definitely is a little bit more comfortable, and I think I haven't actually sucked my hand and got it wet, but I think this one would actually do better in terms of a wet. I think the old one would do better in gloves specifically, just because it has these larger things, but the patterns up here. But the next thing I also noticed that is a big difference, of course, is they nested in the liners on these. So on the old one here, you just had basically straight liners for your liner lock, and then the scale slapped on it. But in the new ones, you're going to notice that they actually nested in those liners, and they actually did a pretty good job of that. So I think that's probably where they also cut off a little bit of weight, because I did find that this one was just about 0.1 ounce heavier on the scale for myself. So again, the deployment, obviously you have that new return assisted spring in the new LCK Plus there, and on the deployment itself, it feels very satisfying. It really does. The original one wasn't bad for such a light little blade, but the new one definitely adds a lot more snap, and it does make it feel a lot more like an automatic in that sense. As far as the pocket clip goes, it appears to be the exact same. Everything else design-wise is pretty similar. I don't know, obviously, if I could replace the blades. Probably not, because of the spring mechanism. I don't know. I haven't yet taken this in apart, but I will be taking this in apart, really just to find out what is the difference there and how that spring mechanism works. Hopefully I can get it back together. I don't see a problem with that. So really the last thing you have to ask for yourself is on that return. So obviously the original one is just a straight, it has some bronze washers in there, and it's just a straight manual knife and returns nice and smooth. Obviously it's not, you can sort of fall shut or anything like that. I mean, you can snap it shut, but it's not really, but it's a super light blade. So I wouldn't necessarily expect anything like that. So then it really came down to is, you know, on this one, this return assist is what's the feel of it? So on the deployment, it just snaps out really nice, really fast. But on the return, it definitely does not have spring initially. You can see that basically there's no spring action there. You have to get over the metal off the lock, and then you hit your detent ball, and there's a little bit of pop there. So the detent ball then jumps up onto the liner lock there. But then you do have some sort of strange release, and I'm not sure what that next one is. But that's when, I don't know if it engages the detent ball or what in there, but it is very interesting. And then you're at the point where what I call it like a 40% stop. And that's where you're then forced to go up against the spring. So it does make for one-handed deployment, but it is definitely anything but smooth. So that would definitely be the consideration, is if you really want a smooth return, this particular mechanism is going to annoy you. I kind of got used to it after playing with it for a day, but there's something about those different stages that I didn't necessarily like. So, you know, for yourself, you can decide. It is definitely safe to do one-handed, much more so than most spring assists, and certainly just about every automatic as well out there. So it satisfies both. It gives you some action, but also safely allows you to return it. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and like and subscribe, and decide for yourself if you want to go with the $33 new LCK Plus, or if you want to stick with the old $14.99 one, which you can also get out at shopruger.com. I have seen specifically the Black Tanto version available out there, and then they seem to be selling this one still with other items. So take care now. Have a good day. Bye.